finally said there'd be a chair up here, and there is not. So, fuck you, Emily. My freshman year of college, I began to take an acute interest in the theater. I had dabbled in sound and light production from time to time during high school, but now that the freedom of college permitted me the opportunity to try a little acting myself, rather than just swinging ape-like from an auditorium ceiling, hanging and aiming lights for hours at a time, I jumped at the opportunity to expand my artistic horizons. Because of this, I found myself, as a freshman, enrolled in a class called Improv 203. I arrived for the first day of my class, along with a handful of other students I recognized from campus during orientation week, high out of my mind and ready to do some motherfucking acting. I didn't know anything about acting, but my inebriated consciousness assured me that I was going to crush the shit for sure. I took a seat in the circle of chairs, quickly being occupied by eager thespians, ready to hone their craft, and hoped that no one would call on me first, so at least I could see someone else to know what the fuck I was supposed to be doing. I remember looking around the circle of people, trying to guess which ones would be most likely to have weed in their pocket I might be able to buy later, when I noticed most everyone was looking back at me. I didn't realize then, and somehow neither had the registration office, that Improv 203 was a second-year improvisation class, requiring Theater 101 and Intro to Acting prerequisite. They were all staring at me because while they recognized nearly all of the other people in the class, I was a stranger to everyone in the room. Well, this is blending extremely fucking well. Good start, I mumbled to myself. A blonde sitting across from me in a sundress and t-shirt that listed all of the attributes of a Southern belle glared at me. Her legs crossed just so, her posture impeccable. I glared back at her, wondering if she loved to be tied up during sex. That thought was cut short as the professor entered the room and class began in earnest. She positioned herself in the center of the circle, and students, spinning a low circle, looked at each of us in the eye before naming a flower. After which, she returned to the next student in the circle, and the process was repeated until everyone in the circle had been assigned a different flower. I was instantly confused. I began to look frantically around the circle, hoping to see someone doing something that would tell me what the hell the flower nonsense was about. You, the professor said, stepping out of the circle, are a beautiful, unique flower. I want to see you bloom. But you must bloom in the style of flower I assigned you a moment ago. And if you don't, you will receive a failing grade for the day. Holy shit, I thought. What the fuck have I wandered into? Wait, what's everyone doing? What the shit is that? All around the circle, the other students were all curling into balls on the floor of the theater. They would lie there for a moment, and then suddenly they would bloom. All of them in different motions and at different speeds, but those motherfuckers were blooming. Not wanting to be the obvious idiot in the room, I quickly collapsed to the floor and balled myself up, fetal style. Unlike the rest of the flowers, I chose to bloom ass first. I'm not sure why, it just felt right. Apparently, it was not. No, said the professor, flitting across the room toward me and shaking her head in admonishment. That is not how a sunflower blooms, ass first like an idiot. I'm not sure you're going to have to really invest in this class if you expect to do well, sir. Right now, you're pulling a C for the day. I wanted to ask what I had done well enough to warrant earning a C over failing, since I had apparently done the whole damn thing wrong and not bloomed at all like my flower, but I decided it would be better not to press my luck and instead just sat down with a shrug. All right, well, despite that awkward initial warm-up, let's continue, said the professor. She walked over to the Southern Belle, blonde, who I had been planning on letting me use to disappoint her parents later. Stacy, why don't you lead the vocal warm-ups and then we'll get into some scene work. Thank you. Stacy led the group through a few vocal exercises which involved imagining our breath as a ball and then throwing it back and forth across the circle with our laughter. I began to suspect that these kids probably had something a lot stronger than pot in their pockets, and I could not wait for class to end so I could find out what the fuck it was. The warm-up period ended with the group of us repeating a string of words about being lonely and quiet and electrocuted on a dock or something, and then the professor returned to begin the scene work. Two or three of the students at a time would mount the stage and launch immediately into a scene of unscripted dialogue based on the setting or scenario provided by the professor a few seconds before. The magic of this fascinated me. It also prevented me from the embarrassment of having to struggle to remember lines while I was too high to read. I could not wait for my chance to get on stage. These fucking drama kids were going to all want to be my friend after they saw how great I was at making up funny shit. I was going to finally find my people. I spent the majority of the class on the edge of my chair, entranced by this willing suspension of disbelief and slipping more pain pills into my mouth when no one was looking. Finally, the last scene of the day, I was called upon to participate. I was paired in a scene with Stacy and another young man named Trevor, who was and remains completely uninteresting and not worthy of any note. Not sure how to conduct myself and not wanting to fuck up my first foray in acting, I moved to one side of the stage and made myself busy pretending to look through imaginary drawers and cabinets. Stacy and Trevor completely ignored me, the two of them launching into a dialogue about the zoo at which we were meant to be employed in this scene. I finished the search of the drawers and cabinets on one side of the stage and promptly crossed to begin searching the other. It was at this point that the scene started to break down. As I continued searching, opening invisible cabinets and rummaging their hypothetical contents before shaking my head and closing them again, the conversation between Stacy and Trevor began to die. Eventually, the stage was silent, the two of them sitting quietly, watching me rummage and search. This went on for what felt like an eternity, until I'm sure the professor must have poked Stacy and gestured at her to engage with me, which she reluctantly did. Why the hell are you dying? At which point I turned to her and asked, where the fuck do we keep the giraffe condoms? I thought this was hilarious. I've been waiting to deliver this line for nearly 7 minutes. It seemed to be the only holder of that opinion, however, as the rest of the room was immediately filled with tension. There was a few moments of uneasy silence as the professor stared at me while I stared at Stacy, trying to get her attention so I could wink at her. You need to leave now, the professor said. There was a weird vein throbbing on her forehead. I really wanted to poke it. That is not improv, she said. You are no actor. I was even more confused than I had been during the flower blooming exercise. What had I done wrong this time? I didn't know. I still don't know. But fuck that bitch. Fuck you, Phyllis. I love theater, and I think my acting is brilliant. You didn't stop me from wanting to be an artist. I even wrote some of my own shit. I had all my actors do that flower blooming thing, and I gave the lead to the ones who bloomed ass first. Fuck you.